Timmy, what a story. And a reminder that he doesn't turn 30 until next month. So there are other chapters to be written in this story. From a sporting standpoint, Tim and I are really excited to talk to this young man. As citizens, Tim and I are honored to talk to this young man. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is here on Tim and Sid. Laurent, thank you for the time. You have gotten a lot of attention. Are you comfortable with it? Because it's been a lot.
Honestly, that's a really good question because, all the awards, the Lou Marsh, the Sport that is traded, that was a lot for me, especially because it took me a long time to, I think, realize the impact of my decision not to play. At the beginning, it was really a personal decision. And at some point, I realized that I was really like creating traction with it. And it's great, but I think the people who really deserve the credit for everything that's been going on this year are the frontline worker. Because at the end of the day, what I'm doing is helping, a few days a week in the long-term care facility in Quebec. But there's people that have been working there for the past 20 years. And I think they're really the one who deserve the credit because they're the one who's making all the sacrifice right now.
Very well said. As I rolled through just the last year, like I thought in my head, like you're my constant Monday motivation. Like if you can accomplish this, there's so much more that I can do. Is there a greatest accomplishment on your list, or is that like asking you to name your favorite kid?
I think 2020 for me has been a pretty intense year. It's going to be for sure a year that I'm going to remember. Coming off a Super Bowl was an amazing accomplishment as a team, and that was just in February. And then 3 months later, you're working in a long-term care facility, making the same sacrifice that thousands of people make to go back and help. And after that, opting out of the season. It was really a year of like ups and downs, but I think what I'm the most proud of is to say that I follow my conviction, and that 5 years, 10 years from now, when I'm a doctor, I'm going to be able to look back at this year and I made the right call. Because at the end of the day, for me, crossing the border, going back to play football, even though football is essential, I think right now sport is kind of a connective tissue to our society. It's like critical to have that to bring people together. Like for me personally, it would have been a little bit of a nonsense. Like I feel like my place was here, and that was a tough call to make. But I'm proud of my decision.
Laurent Duvernay-Tardif here on Tim and Sid. Laurent, I know earlier this week you mentioned you are for sure going to go back, but as we've learned in the last 10 or so months, there are no certainties to anything. Is this 100% in your mind? OTAs, training camp, pandemic willing. You're going back, or is there still a little wiggle room there to make another decision?
Well, I think the only thing I can do right now is to put myself in the best, physical condition possible to go back there and fight for a job. Like nothing is certain from a COVID standpoint, but also just from a football standpoint. Like people think that you just go back and take your spot, but the reality of the business is that there are other guys that are younger, healthier, stronger, faster, cheaper that are going to be there to compete for a spot. So I think the only thing I can do right now is control what I can control. That's something that my sports psychologists keep telling me, like control what you can control. And in a time of uncertainty, control what's certain. And for me, it's like my ability to train. I don't know how it is in Toronto, but in Montreal, all the gyms are closed right now. So I'm training on my balcony, on my patio outside. It's a little bit like Rocky IV movie, but whatever. I do what I can. And that's my promise to myself that I'm going to do everything I can to show up to OTAs in the best shape possible and see from there.
Hopefully there's no Russians chasing you in their car. Do you miss it?
Oh my God. Yes. And I feel like the further we go along in the season, the more I miss it. At the beginning, it's like, okay, well, it's only a few games. And at some point, when it's getting darker, colder, the stakes are higher, I miss it a lot, and especially now, I don't know why, but, with the bye week and everything, I'm like, okay, how did Coach Reid handle this? Okay, we're Friday, so we installed Red Zone. We're getting ready for a big game. Did we practice full pipe during the week to get ourselves ready, or we took it off? So it's been really, it's kind of in my DNA right now, and I just go with the rhythm of the season, and I miss it for sure.
Who's going to have more butterflies this weekend before the Chiefs take on the Browns? the Chiefs or you watching from afar? And I know you're still technically a Chief. Don't get me wrong. I understand. But do you get more nervous than those guys going into games like this in this current situation you're in?
I feel like it's way harder to just watch it and actually play in a game. Like when you play in the game, not that you're in control, but at least you contribute. You do something to help win this the football game. But when you're just watching on TV, and don't get me wrong, I love watching it on TV, but I hate the TV angle because we don't see the O-line enough. So it's just I'm always asking myself, like, oh, did he make this block? Did Pat get pressure because of a twist or because of a blitz? Like, what happened? So it's frustrating watching it on TV, and I wish I could be down there.
Yeah, the big fellas never get enough love on TV. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is joining us here on Tim Sid. I know you've had a good relationship with Andy Reid, whose mom, by the way, also earned a medical degree from McGill. But it's not often that starters walk away from Super Bowl champs in the prime of their career. How supportive has the team been throughout this chaotic year?
That was honestly my biggest fear. When I opted out, I was like, how's the team going to react? Because I was feeling like I was letting the team down. And the amount of support I got, from Pat the next day in his press conference, from Coach Reid, from Trav, from all the guys on the O-line, it's been really amazing. Actually, once I got the support from my teammate, the amount of weight that was just lift off my shoulder, it was that's when I knew I was making the right call, from a team perspective. And that's amazing, to know that in a really competitive business, you still have room for, friendship and support that goes outside of the field. That's really amazing.
When's the last time you communicated with Patrick?
Patrick, it's been a while. We sent each other a few texts after we were co-winner of the Sport Illustrated. But no, I text mostly with the guy on the O-line just because, we're closer, play chess with Fisher and so on. So it's weird because I know what it is to go about your business in the locker room, and when people get cut or when there's severe injury, you lose track of people. So I don't want to put any pressure on talking to the guys. I know what they're going through right now, and I respect that, but it's always good to have some news. So I try to stay in touch.
Laurent Duvernay-Tardif here on Tim and Sid. One of the things that I'm most impressed about your story is the balance. Being able to play university football, let alone pro football, and balance getting your medical degree. And I remember being at McGill for a press conference when the Université, when Montreal was playing in the Vanier Cup. And your name came up. And in fact, it was one of Sid's favorite ADs, Dr. Drew Love, brought your name up to me and said that some of the doctors at the school were trying to convince you to stop playing football because of your talents on the academic side of things. How many people told you that you couldn't do this, that you couldn't do both, that you couldn't balance all of what you're balancing now?
That's the story of my life. From day one when I started at McGill, I mean, my English back then was terrible. It's getting a little better now, but I had to learn English, start medicine, and play football at the university level. So a lot of people were telling me you're gonna have to choose. You cannot do both at the same time. And I stopped playing football. Like when I started at McGill at the beginning of the 2010 season, I was not playing with the team, and I realized that I was missing that balance, and I needed it in my life to perform better in the classroom. And that's when I decided that no matter what, I was going to try to push it, even if it met at the highest level. So when I was doing the pre-draft visit in 2014, I actually met Coach Reid at that time, and I told him my plan about medicine. And he's actually one of the only coach who saw the medical school thing as a positive thing. And he was like, I'll do whatever I can to help you pursue both, because my goal is to make you a better football player, but you also got to be a better human off the field in order to do that. So for the past 10 years, that was my goal. And actually, when I opted out of the 2020 season, it's been 10 years since I, opted out of my first year at McGill. So that was kind of weird, that feeling. But for the past 10 years, it's been my mission to combine both at the same time and to try to inspire the kid as well to do so, because we're telling the kids that they got to focus on one subject, on one thing in order to perform in life. But I feel like you were mentioning, balance is such a powerful thing, and you're able to cope better with the anxiety, with the stress, with the pressure of performing in one field when you have something else in another field, another hobby, another passion. So that's really my motto.
Super Bowl champion and frontline worker, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif here on Tim Sid. Laurent, the element to what's going on here with the pandemic that people like me will never truly wrap our heads around is what's going on in long-term care facilities. Yeah. You've been there a lot. I also know you were vaccinated today for the first time. You got your first dose today. Your emotions when you got vaccinated, considering what you've seen, were what?
You know what? We've been on the defensive for the past year. You know, the only thing we could do about the virus, whether it's long-term care facility or just society in general, was to wash our hand, wear a mask, social distance each other. And I feel like now for the first time, there's like hope that we can be proactive about it. And I was just talking to my supervisor in long-term care facility because I'm going back to work next week. And she was mentioning that like 97% of the patient actually got, the vaccine. And that's an amazing news. Like for the first time, we won't have to like take patient that test positive and just literally force them out of their room in order to like place them in a cafeteria full of stretcher because that's your red zone. Like right now, what's going on in those long-term care facilities is straight up like chaos sometimes. And I feel like the vaccine, along with all the effort from the frontline worker, is the only hope we got. So we gotta embrace that. We gotta be proud of it. And I feel like I'm not the only one who's saying it. Like we have to be vaccinated and realize the importance it has, because we're seeing like record high number of new cases a day, and it's not gonna go away. Like getting people vaccinated, I feel, is the only thing we can do to really stop that pandemic.
I feel like people are listening to memes more often than they're listening to people who have spent their entire lives studying the subject when it comes to things like this. You had no trepidation. There was no second thought about sitting down and getting this vaccination, even though you had studied a lot more than most of us, way more than most of us.
Not at all. And I mean, what else is it going to take? Like you see Fauci, Biden, like everybody who believe in the science is getting vaccinated right now. So of course, the vaccine is not available to everybody, but when it is, I feel like it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be even thinking about it. Like that's how we're going to get through this.
I feel like sometimes it's think like a genius. It's a quote. Think like a genius, communicate in the language of the people. So for the first time with this vaccination, we're allowed to run block the virus as opposed to going back and pass protection.
For the first time, we're in 3rd and 1 situation instead of 3rd and 15. You're right.
Right. Understood. I know when you got the call for the Lou Marsh Award, one of the questions that you asked was, or at least I heard this, that you wanted to talk to and or meet Alphonso Davies. Has that occurred yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. But I wish it's going to happen at some point, because, when you look at Canadian athlete, I think he's for sure one of the greatest Canadian athlete of probably of the decade. Like it's an honor for me actually to be co-nominated with him. I don't consider myself a great athlete. I'm 320 pounds, and yes, I squat a lot, but I'm not a great athlete by any means. But with the pandemic and everything, I think it was also important to acknowledge other things than just sports. So that's why my name got in there. But in terms of like best Canadian athlete, for sure, Alphonso is the one.
Whatever, man. I've seen your combine times. You can play at least defensive mid. You can play at least a solid defensive mid. All right, Laurent, quickly before we let you go, I know we've talked about a lot of things here, but I need a Super Bowl pick. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Is it even a question? I'll go with the Chiefs. Chiefs versus Green Bay, probably. That'd be my guess.
Yep. I'll take that game. That'd be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Hell of a game.
Listen, we've been pitching this conversation, no joke, for about 5 years, maybe even more. So we really appreciate the opportunity to finally catch up with you and do this. Thanks for taking the time.
That was awesome. Thanks for the invitation as well.